The rain pounded against the windows as I sat on the cold, hardwood floor of our small apartment, tears streaming down my face. I clutched a faded photograph of my parents in my trembling hands, desperately trying to hold onto the memories that seemed to slip away with each passing day. Victoria! James's voice broke through the silence, his tone gentle yet tinged with sorrow. He knelt beside me, wrapping his arms around my trembling frame. We'll get through this together, I promise. I buried my face in his shoulder, seeking solace in his familiar embrace. Why did they have to leave us, James? I whispered, my voice muffled by the fabric of his shirt. I don't know, Vic, James murmured, his voice thick with emotion. But we have each other. We'll make it through this, no matter what. And so, we clung to each other amidst the wreckage of our shattered lives, drawing strength from the bond that had always been our lifeline. In the midst of tragedy, we found resilience, a flicker of hope in the darkness that threatened to consume us whole. In the days that followed our parents' passing, James became my anchor in the storm, his unwavering love and support guiding me through the darkest of nights. Despite the weight of his own grief, he never faltered in his duty to protect and care for me. Victoria, I know things seem impossible right now, James said softly, his hand resting on my shoulder as we sat huddled together on the threadbare couch. But I promise you, we'll make it through this. We have each other, and that's all that matters. I looked up at him through tear-stained eyes, my heart heavy with sorrow. I don't know what I'd do without you, James, I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. You'll never have to find out, James replied, his gaze unwavering. I'll always be here for you, no matter what. And true to his word, James became my constant companion in a world that seemed intent on tearing us apart. He sacrificed his own dreams and aspirations to ensure that I never felt alone, his love a beacon of hope in the midst of despair. As the years passed, our bond only grew stronger, weathering every storm that threatened to break us. Together we forged a new path forward, bound by a love that transcended even the deepest of sorrows. As the days turned into weeks and the weeks into months, the pain of losing our parents began to ebb, replaced by a dull ache that lingered in the depths of my soul. In those moments of quiet solitude, I found solace in the written word, pouring my heart out onto the pages of my journal with an urgency born of desperation. Victoria, have you been writing again? James asked one evening, his brow furrowed in concern as he glanced over my shoulder at the tattered notebook in my hands. I nodded, a faint smile tugging at the corners of my lips. It's the only thing that helps, James, I admitted, tracing the words on the page with trembling fingers. Putting my thoughts into words, it's like the weight lifted off my chest. James nodded understandingly, taking a seat beside me on the worn-out sofa. You have a gift, Vic, he said softly, his eyes reflecting the flickering candlelight. Don't ever let anyone tell you otherwise. Your words have power, the power to heal, to inspire, to change the world. And so, with James's unwavering support and encouragement, I dove headfirst into the world of writing, allowing my imagination to soar to new heights. Each word, each sentence, became a lifeline, connecting me to a reality far removed from the pain and heartache that threatened to consume me. In the quiet of the night, I found refuge in the world of my own creation, weaving tales of love, loss, and redemption with an intensity that bordered on obsession. And though the road ahead was fraught with uncertainty, I knew that as long as I had my words, I would never truly be alone. As the years passed, James and I found ourselves navigating the tumultuous waters of adulthood, each carving out our own path in a world that seemed determined to keep us apart. Despite the distance that separated us physically, our bond remained unbreakable, a lifeline that tethered us to each other no matter where life took us. Can you believe it's been 5 years since we lost Mom and Dad? I remarked one evening, the weight of the anniversary hanging heavy in the air as James and I sat across from each other at the dinner table. James nodded solemnly, his gaze distant as he traced the rim of his glass with his fingertip. It feels like a lifetime ago, he murmured, his voice tinged with sadness. But no matter how much time passes, they'll always be with us, in our memories, in our hearts. I reached across the table, squeezing his hand in silent solidarity. "We'll get through this, James," I said softly, meeting his gaze with a determined smile. Together. And so, we forged ahead into the unknown, each facing our own trials and tribulations with a strength born of adversity. James pursued a stable career, sacrificing his own dreams and aspirations to ensure that I had the support I needed to pursue my passion for writing. "Are you sure you're okay with this, James?" I asked one evening, my heart heavy with guilt as I watched him toil away at a job he had long since outgrown. "You don't have to put your life on hold for me." James shook his head, a smile playing at the corners of his lips. "Vic, you're my sister," he said firmly, his eyes shining with determination. "There's nothing I wouldn't do for you. Your dreams are my dreams." And so, with James by my side, I ventured into the unpredictable world of publishing, my brother's unwavering support serving as a beacon of hope in an otherwise uncertain future. Though the road ahead was fraught with challenges, I knew that as long as we had each other, we could weather any storm that came our way. Life has a curious way of throwing unexpected curveballs, and for me, one such twist came in the form of a marriage proposal from a close colleague, Michael. The evening was like any other, the air heavy with the scent of freshly printed manuscripts as I pored over the latest submissions at the publishing house. "Victoria, can I talk to you for a moment?" Michael's voice broke through the silence, his expression serious as he motioned for me to join him in his office. Curiosity piqued, I followed him inside, my mind racing with a million possibilities, but nothing could have prepared me for what came next. "Victoria, I've known you for years, and in that time, I've come to admire you in more ways than one," Michael began, his gaze intense as he took my hand in his. "Which is why I have to ask, will you marry me?" The words hung in the air, a weighty silence descending upon the room as I struggled to process the magnitude of what he was asking. Marriage had never been a part of my plans, yet here I was, faced with a decision that could change the course of my life forever. I don't know what to say, Michael," I stammered, my mind reeling with uncertainty. "This is all so sudden." Michael nodded understandingly, his expression softening as he squeezed my hand reassuringly. "Take your time, Victoria," he said gently. "I know this is a lot to process, but just know that whatever you decide, I'll support you every step of the way." And so, with his words echoing in my mind, I made a decision that would alter the course of my life in ways I could never have imagined. Little did I know, this unexpected turn of events would lead me down a path filled with both joy and heartache, testing the limits of my resilience in ways I never thought possible. The days that followed my acceptance of Michael's proposal were a whirlwind of excitement and uncertainty, each moment tinged with the promise of a new beginning. As we embarked on the journey towards marriage, I found myself grappling with a myriad of emotions: joy, fear, anticipation, each vying for dominance in the tumultuous landscape of my heart. "Victoria, I can't believe we're getting married," Michael exclaimed one evening, his eyes shining with excitement as we sat together in the cozy confines of our apartment. "I've dreamed of this moment for so long, and now that it's finally here, I feel like the luckiest man alive." I smiled, my heart swelling with affection as I reached for his hand, entwining our fingers together in a silent gesture of solidarity. "I feel the same way, Michael," I replied softly, my voice laced with emotion. "This is the start of a new chapter for both of us, and I couldn't be happier to share it with you." And so, with our love as our guiding light, we embarked on the journey towards marriage, our hearts intertwined in a bond that felt unbreakable. In the midst of planning our wedding, another unexpected twist awaited us: the news of our impending parenthood. "Victoria, I have something to tell you," Michael said one evening, his expression serious as he took my hands in his. "I just got off the phone with the doctor, and it looks like we're going to be parents." I stared at him in disbelief, my mind struggling to process the enormity of what he was saying. Are you serious? I whispered, my voice trembling with a mixture of excitement and apprehension. Michael nodded, his eyes shining with anticipation. I couldn't be more serious, Victoria, he replied, his voice filled with warmth. This is the greatest gift we could ever receive, the chance to start a family together. And so, as we awaited the arrival of our precious daughter, Stella, I couldn't help but feel a sense of overwhelming gratitude for the new beginning that lay ahead. Little did I know, the challenges we would face in the years to come would test the limits of our love and resilience. But for now, in this moment, all that mattered was the promise of a future filled with hope and possibility. As Stella grew older, my heart swelled with pride and anticipation for the bright future that lay ahead of her. We enrolled her in a prestigious private school, hoping to provide her with the best education money could buy. However, our dreams were soon overshadowed by the harsh reality of Stella's experiences at school. Mom, I don't want to go to school today, Stella confessed one morning, her voice tinged with anxiety as she clung to my hand, her eyes brimming with unshed tears. I knelt down beside her, wrapping my arms around her trembling form in a gesture of comfort. What's wrong, sweetheart? I asked, my heart breaking at the sight of her distress. Stella hesitated, her words tumbling out in a rush of emotion. My teacher. He's always picking on me, Mom, she confessed, her voice barely above a whisper. He makes fun of my work in front of the class, and he tells me I'm not good enough. I don't know what to do. My blood boiled with anger at the thought of someone belittling my precious daughter, but I knew I had to remain calm for her sake. Stella, you don't deserve to be treated that way, I said firmly, brushing a stray lock of hair away from her tear-streaked face. I'll talk to your teacher and make sure this stops, I promise. And so, armed with a determination fueled by maternal instinct, I marched into the school the following day, ready to confront Stella's teacher and demand justice for my daughter. Mr. Thompson, we need to talk, I said, my voice firm as I entered his classroom, my eyes locking with his in a silent challenge. Mr. Thompson's expression hardened, his posture defensive as he braced himself for what was to come. Mrs. Smith, I assure you, I have nothing but the best interests of my students at heart, he replied, his tone icy. I held his gaze, refusing to back down in the face of his arrogance. With all due respect, Mr. Thompson, the way you've been treating my daughter is completely unacceptable, I said, my voice tinged with anger. I won't stand idly by while you continue to undermine her confidence and belittle her achievements. Consider this your final warning. And so, with a sense of righteous indignation burning in my chest, I made it clear to Mr. Thompson that Stella's well-being was not to be trifled with. Little did I know, this confrontation would mark the beginning of a battle that would ultimately shape the course of Stella's future in ways I could never have imagined. The confrontation with Stella's teacher marked only the beginning of a tumultuous battle to protect my daughter's well-being and ensure she received the education she deserved. As the days passed, it became increasingly clear that Mr. Thompson's behavior persisted, his disdain for Stella evident in every interaction. Mom, Mr. Thompson made fun of me again in class today, Stella confessed one afternoon, her voice trembling with hurt and frustration. I don't know how much more of this I can take. My heart ached at the sight of Stella's distress, her innocence tarnished by the cruelty of an insensitive teacher. But I refused to let her suffer in silence any longer. It was time to take decisive action to put an end to Mr. Thompson's reign of terror. Dad and I are going to have a meeting with the principal tomorrow, I assured Stella, my voice filled with determination as I wrapped her in a comforting embrace. We'll make sure this stops once and for all. The following day, armed with a sense of righteous indignation and unwavering resolve, my husband and I sat down with the school principal to address Stella's plight. Mrs. Smith, Mr. Thompson has been a valued member of our staff for many years, the principal began, his tone diplomatic as he attempted to diffuse the tension in the room. I shook my head, refusing to be swayed by his attempts at diplomacy. With all due respect, Principal Johnson, Mr. Thompson's behavior towards my daughter is completely unacceptable, I stated firmly, my eyes locking with his in a silent challenge. Stella deserves to feel safe and respected in her learning environment. And it's clear that Mr. Thompson is incapable of providing that. The principal sighed, his expression weary as he leaned back in his chair. I understand your concerns, Mrs. Smith, he admitted, his voice tinged with regret. I'll launch a formal investigation into the matter and take appropriate action to ensure the safety and well-being of all our students. And so, with the wheels of justice finally set in motion, I felt a sense of relief wash over me, knowing that Stella's suffering would not go unnoticed or unpunished. Little did I know, this pivotal moment would mark the beginning of a new chapter in our lives, one filled with triumph, closure, and the unwavering strength of a mother's love. The days that followed the meeting with the school principal were fraught with tension and uncertainty, as my husband and I awaited news of the outcome of the investigation into Mr. Thompson's behavior. With each passing day, Stella's anxiety seemed to grow, her confidence shaken by the relentless onslaught of her teacher's cruelty. But amidst the turmoil, there was a glimmer of hope, a sense of determination that burned brightly within me, refusing to be extinguished by the darkness that threatened to consume us. And then, finally, came the news we had been waiting for. "Mom, Dad," the principal called. Stella exclaimed one evening, her voice filled with excitement as she burst into the living room, a wide grin spreading across her face. "They're going to fire Mr. Thompson." I felt tears prickle at the corners of my eyes, overwhelmed by a rush of relief and gratitude. "Oh, Stella, that's wonderful news," I exclaimed, pulling her into a tight embrace. "I'm so proud of you for speaking up and standing your ground." Stella beamed up at me, her eyes shining with pride. "Thanks, Mom," she said softly, her voice filled with emotion. "I couldn't have done it without you and Dad by my side." And so, with Mr. Thompson's dismissal, came a sense of triumph and closure, a vindication of Stella's courage and resilience in the face of adversity. But our journey was far from over. In the aftermath of the investigation, the school implemented measures to prevent similar incidents from occurring in the future, ensuring that no child would ever have to endure the same hardships that Stella had faced. As I watched my daughter's confidence and self-esteem blossom once more, I felt a sense of pride swell within me. Pride in her strength, her resilience, and her unwavering determination to never back down in the face of injustice. And though the road ahead was sure to be filled with its own challenges and obstacles, I knew that as long as we faced them together, there was nothing we couldn't overcome.